Hello chums, and welcome to the Fastest Lap series, where I'll be putting all of the road cars in Gran Turismo 7 to the test. Each car will be scrutinised in a few ways, once with no upgrades and comfort soft tyres, once with all upgrades and racing soft tyres, and once with an engine swap if the option is available. All cars are tested on a PlayStation 5 controller because I am an unsophisticated proletarian, and I drive each car with no driver assists except for ABS. I am by no means a professional, but I can usually complete a lap without binning my car into a wall, so hopefully I can do each car justice. The chosen test track is the Nurburgring Sprint course for its variety of corner types, along with a few longer straights to test every aspect of a car's performance. Let's see today's contender. The 1990s were one hell of a good time to be rich. While million-dollar hypercars with more wings than the Red Baron's Fokker DR1 are oversaturating the market today, the supercar market in the 1990s had some of the most desirable machinery of all time, including this. The Ferrari F50 has always played second fiddle to its predecessor, the F40, despite now being worth more. So I'm willing to bet whoever owns one of these is trying to convince themselves that they made the right choice. The F40 was always going to be a tough act to follow. Enzo Ferrari, known for creating the company that bears his name and for behaving like a colossal shit puddle, gave his approval on the F40 shortly before he passed away in 1988, making it quite the swan song. That seal of approval seems to have elevated the F40 to almost mythical status in the years since, despite the car being a rather ill-mannered thing to drive. Reviews at the time of the F40 ranged from praising the raw, borderline dangerous driving experience, while others effectively accused it of being an extremely pricey bathtub with a rocket strapped to it. The F50 was developed as a sort of 50th anniversary present from Ferrari to itself. The project was all about the engine. At the time, Ferrari had a selection of road car engines, including a naturally aspirated V8 that was fitted to the 348, the twin-turbo V8 previously used in the GTO and the F40, and the 4.9-litre flat 12 in the Testarossa. The 348 engine was not really offering all that much power over what the Japanese were making at the time. The F40 engine could best be described as agricultural, and the flat 12 was old, underpowered, and very heavy. There was another option though. At the time, the Formula 1 World Championship was in the middle of something of a golden age, at least as far as engine development goes. Gone were the compact turbo hand grenades that dominated the 1980s. In their place was a 3.5-litre rule set, which allowed the use of V8s for fuel economy, V12s for raw power, and V10s for balance. Ferrari, pig-headedly, stuck with V12s. For the F50, they decided to use the V12 from the Ferrari 641, which competed in the 1990 season, finishing second in the Constructors' Championship. The highly strung 3.5-litre engine wasn't designed for road use though, it was basically designed to last 1 hour. It made a rather dizzying 680 horsepower, revved to an even more dizzying 13,000 RPM, and was mated to a very cutting-edge 7-speed semi-automatic gearbox. None of these things exactly scream reliable, so the engine was enlarged to 4.7 litres, and power was decreased to about 513 horsepower, which was still a very healthy number in the early 1990s, especially when you consider how light the engine was. The icing on the cake for car enthusiasts was the ditching of the semi-auto for a classic Ferrari gated manual gearbox. So, high-revving F1-derived V12 engine with no forced induction in sight, and a slick manual gearbox. Throw in the carbon fibre chassis for a low curb weight and you have a recipe that would make a car enthusiast go weak at the knees if a manufacturer created this today. The interior was also slightly more welcoming than that of the preceding F40, which looked like a scaffolding tower and smelled like glue. In the F50 there was no stereo or electric windows, but there was at least some level of thought put into the fit and finish, unlike the F40. All of this sounds like the perfect driver's car then, except the F50 didn't receive the most welcoming reception. The first point of contention was the styling. After the wedgy GTO and the brutally functional F40, this F50 was soft and rounded, and it deeply offended men who had a troubled relationship with their own masculinity, who accused it of being ugly. Personally, I think the F50 is to cars what the Suzuki Hayabusa is to bikes. Functional, aerodynamic, rounded, but stylistically polarizing. However, time has been kind to the F50, and I suppose that's hardly surprising when we now live in a world where the G82 BMW M4 exists. There was another problem as well. People who use Excel spreadsheets to augment their arguments were very quick to mention that the Ferrari F50 weighs more than the F40 and doesn't have much more power, so the F40 will be just as fast, if not faster, than the F50 around a circuit, and those people were probably correct. There's more to the F50 than numbers though. Let's put that to the test. Like all unmodified cars in this series, this car has no upgrades that affect the performance in any way, and it is fitted with Comfort Soft tyres. The reason all cars are fitted with Comfort Soft tyres is because they will give a very rough approximation of how the real-life car will perform on some fancy Michelin Pilot Sport tyres, which are some of the better summer tyres on the market, which are road-biased but can handle a track day. While the sports tyres would be faster, there aren't many cars on the street rolling around on Cup 2R tyres. This car feels much faster than its power figure would suggest. Response is instant, the gears are closely spaced, and the car has almost hyperactive reactions despite using Comfort Soft tyres. On a very messy first lap, it sailed past the Diablo GT's best time and continued to improve until I eventually got a best time of 1 minute 37.506. What happens when we give that V12 engine a power figure slightly closer to that of the F1 car? Once upgraded, the F50 weighs a hair over a ton and has over 700 horsepower. It's 100 horsepower down on the Diablo, but it's also 150 kilograms lighter with more downforce. Like all upgraded cars, this one is on racing soft tyres and has every upgrade available, including any visual options that add downforce and the body rigidity increase. For the setup, everything has been stiffened up to prevent body roll as usual. Anti-roll bars are higher at the rear, which usually improves stability when braking, and there's some front toe out to improve overall stability as well. Downforce is odd, since you can have 350 units of downforce at the front as well as the rear, which would render this car undrivable. So front downforce is reduced for stability. This car is very twitchy, so it may be wise to add some ballast if you find the car too unruly. Once upgraded, this car is batshit. It may have been heavy compared to the F40, but it's a flyweight by today's standards, especially once upgraded. It is insanely capable, but that's tempered by very edgy handling. While it's mostly controllable here, this car could fairly easily catch you out on a track like the Nordschleife. Either way, it gets a time of 1 minute 21.197. That leaves the F50 in first place amongst the road cars. It even beats the Sauber C9 Group C. The only cars that beat this are the Chaparral 2J and the McLaren MP4-4. I wonder if we'll ever see a car beat either of those. The stock car, meanwhile, also reaches the top spot amongst its peers, 1.5 seconds ahead of the Diablo in second. The F50 is a fairly expensive car in GT7, but it certainly has the performance to back it up. I could certainly see this upsetting a few people in a public lobby either way. So, that was the Ferrari F50. Join me next time where I'll probably be driving something slightly less valuable. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd be very grateful for your subscription. Take care now, and ta-ra.